He should be in the NBA. Come on. There's no way.
You're laughing about it. You know what they're laughing
I'm laughing at Chuck.
Shaq, I know what they're laughing at. Shaq,
You understand?
Shaq is over there crumbling up paper. That's why I was laughing. That's not what I'm going
I'm laughing at Chuck.
Come on, tell the truth.
The moment it happened, something shifted inside that arena, and most people in the building hadn't even fully processed what they had just witnessed. LeBron James, already operating under the kind of scrutiny that follows very few athletes in the history of this sport, reportedly walked off the court early, and within minutes, the cameras, the crowd, and social media converged into one enormous, overlapping conversation. What began as a single moment escalated into something far larger than the moment itself. That is simply what happens when LeBron's name gets attached to anything. The story doesn't just travel, it transforms. It takes on weight and velocity that ordinary NBA news never reaches. This wasn't just another story moving through the weekly sports cycle and fading by the next morning. The second LeBron became the center of it, the situation developed its own momentum, and that momentum wasn't slowing down anytime soon.
Of children, Bronny and Bron playing together.
You have to create your own path. Gotta separate from me. Like, if you don't want to be affiliated with me, go on your own.
Every reaction gets amplified, every opinion gets sharper, and every detail, no matter how small, gets pulled apart from every possible angle. It didn't take long before the story found its way into the kind of media firestorm that Stephen A. Smith is built for. On live television, he did exactly what anyone familiar with his style would have anticipated. He didn't ease into the conversation. If anything, he turned the intensity all the way up. The frustration, the disbelief, and the rapid breakdown of what it signals when a superstar appears to leave a game before the final buzzer all came out at full volume. This was not measured commentary. This was Stephen A. operating at maximum capacity. In his view, LeBron James is not just another player. He is one of the most recognizable figures basketball has ever produced. Because of that status, every action carries weight beyond the action itself. When a player of that magnitude walks off the court early, a significant portion of the audience does not process it as a simple, isolated decision. They read symbolism into it, whether that reading is fair or not. That is precisely where the debate fractured almost immediately. One side argued this was yet another example of the media manufacturing a massive controversy out of a minor moment. The other side framed it through the lens of accountability and the responsibilities that come with being the face of a league. I don't like Bronny James. I just feel like he's one of those, my dad's here, you can't tell me what to do type situations. He's like a kid just running around. That's what he looks like to me. Same event, completely opposite interpretations. For many observers, carrying the title of the league's biggest star comes with a set of expectations that simply do not apply to other players. How you close out games, how you respond to adversity, and how your decisions appear from the outside all become legitimate subjects of public conversation. Stephen A. clearly planted his flag on that side of the debate, and his delivery made it obvious he had no interest in softening his position for anyone's comfort. While that conversation was still building momentum, a separate viral basketball moment was unfolding elsewhere. The ongoing Bronny James discussion, already one of the most talked about storylines in the NBA, made its way into a live segment featuring Shaquille O'Neal. But instead of adding more heat to the fire, the studio got something entirely different. Shaq broke into laughter, and not the kind of polished professional chuckle you see on television broadcasts. According to reports, when the conversation turned on the relentless pressure, scrutiny, and expectations surrounding Bronny's basketball journey, Shaq's reaction suggested the entire discourse had reached a point where taking it completely seriously felt almost impossible. That moment instantly shifted the energy in the room and spread across social media just as fast. The contrast is a significant part of why this story traveled so widely and so quickly. On one side, Stephen A. was dissecting the LeBron situation with full intensity, connecting it to themes of leadership, legacy, and competitive standards. On the other, Shaq seemed to be reacting to the Bronny conversation as though the sheer repetitiveness of it had become its own kind of commentary. Two completely different responses, one treating the subject with maximum gravity, the other suggesting that the conversation had perhaps run well past its natural endpoint. And yet both reactions were orbiting the exact same sun, the enormous, relentless spotlight that follows the James family wherever they go. And LeBron James choosing to step away from social media, is that because of you, LeBron? Or is it because of your son, Bronny, and his struggles in the G League, in the NBA, in college, in high school, when he was an All-American averaging 14 points a game, and people still said no real All-American averages 14 points a game? That spotlight never fully powers down. Here is what a lot of people are overlooking in the middle of all this noise. This conversation is not really about one early exit, one television segment, or one viral clip. It is about how NBA media coverage functions in the current environment. A single moment can instantly become a symbol. When LeBron leaves a game early, the discussion almost always expands beyond the game itself. When Bronny's name enters the picture, the debate stretches further into questions of legacy, inherited expectations, and public perception. And often, before the actual facts have settled, people are already attaching sweeping narratives to the story. Stephen A's reaction fits naturally into that environment because his perspective is consistent. When you're the face of the league, there is no such thing as a moment that exists in isolation. Everything eventually connects back to leadership, competitiveness, and the idea that the game's biggest names help set the emotional standard, even in losses, even when the outcome has already been decided. That's a major reason his reaction escalated as quickly as it did. From his vantage point, this was never just about one play or one early departure. It was about what some fans interpret as a gradual erosion of the expectations placed on the league's most prominent figure. LeBron James has spent decades operating under a level of observation that almost no athlete in sports history has experienced. Every movement gets documented, every expression gets analyzed, every decision becomes material for debate. Under that kind of sustained, unrelenting attention, even routine human reactions can suddenly become the story of the week. That's the real tension running underneath all of this. At what point does legitimate analysis cross the line into continuous narrative construction? It's a question that resurfaces every single time LeBron's name enters the conversation. And then Shaq walks into the room and changes the entire temperature, like opening a window in a space that's been sealed shut for too long. Shaq's laughter during the Bronny discussion didn't feel random or out of place in context. It reflected a genuinely different philosophy about how basketball conversations should be handled. Shaq has consistently leaned toward a more grounded approach. Let players develop at their own pace, stop engineering every moment into a sweeping narrative, and resist piling impossible expectations onto young athletes before they've had a real chance to find their feeting. That's a perspective he has held and expressed for years. So when the Bronny conversation fills up with layers of intense opinion, heavy analysis, and non-stop debate, Shaq's reaction cuts straight through all of it. Some people may read that as dismissiveness. Others may see it as the perspective of someone who has personally lived under an enormous spotlight and genuinely understands how suffocating the noise can become when it never turns off. This is where two very different media philosophies collide head-on. Stephen A. thrives in high-energy analysis mode, where every detail carries weight and every action can be connected to larger questions about legacy and accountability. Shaq, on the other hand, consistently draws from personal experience, operating from the belief that not every moment requires a dramatic breakdown, and that real development simply takes time. When those two worldviews intersect around the James family, the friction is almost inevitable. The reported LeBron walk-off, regardless of whether people view it as genuinely significant or completely overblown, becomes the focal point precisely because it fits perfectly into how today's media machine operates. It's visual, it's emotional, it's easy to replay, and it's almost guaranteed to generate strong reactions the moment it starts circulating. That's what keeps reaction culture running at full speed. When Stephen A. weighs in, his commentary doesn't simply respond to a moment, it actively helps shape how millions of viewers interpret and remember it going forward. Those opinions carry into future conversations about LeBron's leadership, his competitive standards, and how he's navigating this stage of his career. At the same time, Shaq's reaction to the Bronny discussion adds an entirely different dimension. Bronny isn't treated like any other developing player in most of these conversations. His name is perpetually tied to a legacy debate that existed long before he ever set foot on an NBA court. That creates a pressure and a level of scrutiny that has almost nothing to do with where he actually is in his development. Every critique gets magnified, every performance gets dissected, and every debate has a tendency to drift away from basketball entirely and toward the management of inherited expectations. Shaq's laughter is open to interpretation. Some may see it as a direct reaction to the hype machine. Others may read it as quiet frustration with media narratives that keep recycling the same talking points. And some may simply see it as an honest acknowledgement that the conversation has grown well beyond any reasonable proportion. What makes all of this even more layered is that both storylines are unfolding simultaneously. LeBron's actions are being filtered through questions of leadership and accountability, while Bronny's name keeps getting pulled into discussions about legacy and what he's supposed to represent. Together, they create the kind of pressure-saturated environment that defines NBA media in the current era, where every moment is judged, celebrated, questioned, or criticized before most people have had time to process what actually happened. This is precisely where young players can find themselves in trouble if they lose focus and start absorbing outside noise instead of concentrating on their own growth. The Bronny situation illustrates clearly how quickly